everybody, Matthew here from MiniWarGaming.com, and I want to show you how I made this epic swamp board. Now, thanks to Printable Scenery, they sent me the STLs, the 3D files for all of this terrain early to get ready for their Kickstarter, which is now live. If you go to miniwargaming.com/swamp, then you can back this project and get all of the STLs for these, plus a lot more. I love this set because it can work with almost any game. I can see playing games of Warhammer 40K, Age of Sigmar, obviously, even Star Wars Legion. There's swamp planets, as we know in that universe, and of course, Dungeons and Dragons. It fits so many different genres. Now, I plan to make videos that are about 3D printing in the near future to talk about what printers I would suggest. I'm not really going to go over all of those details here. If you go to miniwargaming.com/3D, then you can get all of my current printer recommendations, both for printing terrain and miniatures. Suffice it to say, I have my Bamboo Labs X1 Carbon and my Prusa Mark IIIs, which worked overtime to get all of this printed really quickly so I could have it ready for the Kickstarter. The first step in printing out a lot of terrain for a table is, of course, to plan out the table. Now, typically what I would do is get a piece of paper and I would write out what I want the table to look like, and position of the terrain and everything else. Obviously it's modular so I can change it, but I want to make sure I print enough of each piece. However, because I was on a time crunch, I just printed and printed and printed and printed some more, and I ended up with more than I needed for a 6x4 table, which is always a good problem to have. The first step, of course, to printing something is to bring the STL files into what's called a slicer. This is a piece of software that'll literally slice the terrain or miniatures so that it can print all the way up. In this case, if you're wondering about the settings, I did use a 10% infill. I did add brims for the trees, not the ruins, just the trees, and also some of the walkway supports. A brim is a little plastic amount of support that goes around the very first layer to help the whole thing stick to the platform, so especially for things that are thin and tall, they can easily get knocked over and fall over and fail that print. I did have to add supports for the hills because I've gotten early access STLs where they hadn't added supports yet. But one thing I love about Printable Scenery is they know how to optimize their files for printing and make it super easy. They come pre-cut for smaller printers, pre-supported if you don't want to add the supports yourself, and they do a tremendous job of all of that. But of course, terrain doesn't look good if it's pink or blue or red or gray, whatever it happens to be, it needs to be painted. And this is not something that I excel at, so I called on Adam from Greenleaf Terrain, my trusty terrain maker and painter. He worked super fast and just in a few days managed to paint up everything on this table that you can see. Adam did a great job of adding in the greens and the browns where he needed to, and then putting in accent colors, especially on the plants, of purples and yellows and oranges to make the whole table pop. I have to say some of my favorite things on the table are the walkways and even these half barrels that you can put in rivers and in little swamp areas to make it look like there's barrels floating around. Some of them are even designed to have a flat end so that you can have walkways on top of them and create little bridges and access points. Now, as if that wasn't epic enough, just yesterday, as of filming this video, I saw one of the stretch goals that they announced. I did not know about this one ahead of time. And that is for the Brackencourt Keep, this modular piece of terrain hand sculpted by Johnny Fraser Allen. He's done a lot of stuff for Printable Scenery, and his stuff is absolutely gorgeous. I was already in love with this swamp terrain, and when I saw this piece, I absolutely had to have it. Unfortunately, it hasn't been scanned in and optimized yet for printing, so I have to wait. But it is a stretch goal, so if you want to make sure that this thing becomes a reality, then head over to miniwargaming.com/swamp and back the Kickstarter today. A huge thank you goes out to Printable Scenery. They have provided us with so much terrain that I just absolutely love. We have other sets that I want to be showing off soon as well. And I also want to make 3D printing videos so that you can get into this hobby as well and start printing your own terrain, because I know there's a lot of people out there that think it is really hard. And while it isn't easy, there are a lot of tricks you can learn to make your life a lot easier. And then you too can print off awesome tables like this. There are so many STLs out there. Printable Scenery does such a fantastic job. They have a lot of other sets. So I strongly recommend you figure out 3D printing, especially FDM printing, which allows you to make all this awesome terrain. I'll be making more videos about that, so leave a comment below on any questions that you would have for 3D printing, and I'll see if I can get to all of them in future shorts and long form videos. Now make sure you go and check out Printable Scenery's Kickstarter at miniwargaming.com/swamp. And I'll put all the links in the description below and in the comments as well. So thank you to Matt Barker over at Printable Scenery and all the guys and gals who printed all of this, or who designed all of this. And thank you to Adam from Greenleaf Terrain for doing such a fantastic job painting it for us. I'll see you in the next video. Happy wargaming.